US economy slowed but not crashed by the end of 2020. Reported that the US economy slowed significantly but not collapsed in the last 3 months of 2020. With the Department of Commerce on Thursday, thousands of businesses had to cut their operations due to the still-soaring coronavirus outbreak. The US national economy, the world's largest, grew by 1% in the October-December period, from a strong 7.5% increase in the previous 3 months. The US economy fell by 3.5% in 2020 compared to the previous year, with the sharp economic drop recorded earlier in the year at the peak of the pandemic, the Commerce Agency reported. By comparison, the economy gained 2.2% in 2019. Still, the 2020 drop was not as severe as some financial experts had predicted when the coronavirus first entered the United States a year ago. Now, economists predict an eventual recovery in 2021, particularly in the second half of the year, as millions of Americans vaccinated against the virus. Some experts believe the economic recovery may have started in January, as the $900 billion coronavirus aid package signed by former President Donald Trump last month has thawed the U.S. economy. Now the new United States President Joe Biden is pushing for further assistance, a $1.9 trillion deal that will increase unemployment compensation for unemployed workers by September and send $1,400 to all but the biggest wage earners. Congress has not yet accepted the agreement, and the final scope of any aid is unclear. Unemployment benefits claims remained high last week, but improved in the previous week. The U.S. Department of Labor reported on Thursday. The government said 847,000 workers applied for social assistance last week, with 67,000 workers down compared to the revised figure for the previous week. But as Biden begins his second week in office, the U.S. economy is still facing winds. Tens of thousands of people are infected every day, and employers are facing closure orders from state and municipal officials to try to limit or prevent work hours to spread of the virus. Earlier this month, the government reported that U.S. employers laid off 140,000 jobs in December. First decline in employment growth since the epidemic spread to the country last March and April and shook the national economy. For weeks, the number of unemployment benefit claims has remained steady in the range of 700,000 to 800,000, but has increased further in recent weeks. All weekly totals for the past few months were well below the record 6.9 million claims made in late last March, as the epidemic spread in the United States level. The national government pays an extra $300 per week to the unemployed, as well as less generous state benefits, a salary that lasts until March. As part of his proposed $1.9 trillion coronavirus aid package, Biden is trying to raise that salary to $400 per week by September. Biden has narrow majority in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, which probably facilitates approval of the aid plan, but only if the Democrats vote as a bloc or if the president can persuade some Republican lawmakers to support them. However, it took Trump and his grumpy lawmakers in Congress months to reach an agreement on a $900 billion coronavirus aid measure, which includes $300 a week in unemployed aid, making it difficult to negotiate any new spending. Of the 22 million workers who lost their jobs, about 10 million remain unemployed in the United States. The unemployment rate remained steady at 6.7% in December, and many economists said the figure could remain high for months. United States employers recalled millions of workers who were laid off during job closures earlier this year. But some hard-hit businesses were slow to reaccelerate their operations or permanently shut down, leaving workers idle or looking for new jobs. However, some state and municipal officials now imposed new restrictions on businesses and forced owners to lay off workers once again. The charity agreement signed by Trump includes payments of $600 to more than 80% of adult Americans, excluding the top payers. While some lawmakers say the payments should be more targeted, Biden is asking for additional $1,400 to go only to low-income people who need the money most. In the December negotiations, Republican lawmakers said the additional aid was too costly. As Democrats controlled power in Congress and the White House after Biden took office a week ago, more aid could be approved as the number of deaths from the coronavirus increased. While the United States economy has regained strength since the early days of the coronavirus outbreak, the trade report shows how slow growth has slowed in the last 3 months of 2020. The United States currently has recorded 429,000 coronavirus deaths and 25.6 million infections, both being reported in any other country according to Johns Hopkins University. Economists expect the recovery in the US economy to accelerate in the second half of 2021 after the adoption of the December stimulus package and eventually with millions of people vaccinated against the disease. To date, more than 24 million Americans have been vaccinated against coronavirus, which is 6.2% of the US population. 22 million workers lost their jobs. About 10 million remain unemployed in the United States. The unemployment rate remained steady at 6.7% in December, and many economists said the figure could remain high for months. US employers record millions of workers who were laid off during job closures earlier this year. But some hard-hit businesses were slow to reaccelerate their operations or permanently shut down, leaving workers idle or looking for new jobs. However, some state and municipal officials now imposed new restrictions on businesses and forced owners to lay off workers once again. The charity agreement signed by Trump includes payment of $600 to more than 80% of adult Americans. Excluding the top payers, Biden is asking for an additional $1,400 payment. In the December negotiations, Republican lawmakers said the additional aid was too costly. As Democrats control the leverage of power in Congress and the White House after Biden's inauguration on Wednesday, more aid could be approved as the number of deaths from the coronavirus increases. While the US economy has regained strength since the early days of the coronavirus epidemic, growth slowed in the last 3 months of 2020. The US currently has recorded 406,000 coronavirus deaths and 24.4 million infections, both higher than those reported in any other country, according to Johns Hopkins University. Meanwhile, economists expect the recovery in the United States economy to accelerate in the second half of 2021, following the adoption of the December stimulus package, and eventually with millions of people vaccinated against the disease. More than 16.5 million Americans have been vaccinated so far, but this figure is still below the 20 million Trump administration estimates will receive the vaccines by the end of December. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.